Well, he's done it again. Um, Donald Trump um, had some things to say about uh, Governor Tim Walz of Minnesota when Walz was commenting on something, and he referred to Governor Walz as, and I'm going to have to quote him again using a word that I hate to say, referred to him as the quote, seriously retarded governor who does nothing, unquote. Um, Despicable, yes. The good news, I guess, of this is that there's actually a Republican lawmaker who was offended by that. Indiana Republican State Senator Mike Bohocek. I'm not sure that's how you pronounce his name, Bohocek. Anyway, his daughter has Down syndrome, and so he was rightly offended by what Trump said, and he publicly criticized him for it. And then he indicated that it was going to affect his political decisions about over the agenda that Trump would be proposing or things that Trump wanted. Anyway, a public scolding, which is pretty darn unusual, right, from Republican politicians. So that was the good thing. But it set me to thinking. Kind of reminded me of when Mitch McConnell finally spoke up against one of Trump's appointees, um, Kennedy, RFK Jr., when Kennedy was threatening to withdraw the polio vaccine. And McConnell was a very vocal opponent to that idea. Turns out Mitch McConnell had polio in his youth and still suffers some of the effects of that. So it affected him personally, and he spoke out. That got me thinking too. And then I had my own experience when I went to a gathering of people who were trying to build bridges between the right and the left and how to listen to one another and talk to one another. And there was a man there who was, and this was during the Me Too movement time. And this man was talking about how he had not been supportive of Me Too until he started realizing how he would feel if his wife or his daughter was a victim of assault, and it changed his mind toward toward it. And he said it in a way that he was quite proud of his newfound realization and his epiphany. I did not respond in the best way, although I wasn't mean, but I did get incensed. And I said, I just wonder why it takes thinking about something happening to either you, yourself, or a loved one in order to understand what something is about, why you couldn't have been thinking about every woman and girl. Um, so that was my experience with that. But putting these all together as I was thinking about this most recent incident, I think there are two kinds of people in the world. I think there are those who see social policies, ideas, programs as how they can benefit a lot of people, that is beneficial to all people. And then there are those who are either against such programs or oblivious to them until it affects them personally. And we've heard this with families who are very anti-LGBTQ until a son or daughter comes out and they have to wrestle with that and eventually come around to see how their previous thinking was wrong. And so we know this happens, and it's good. It's a good thing for people to have those kinds of conversion experiences. But I wonder what it would be like if we didn't have to have those, that everyone just understood that we are supposed to be thinking about all people, especially if we identify as Christian. Um, it's right there in our scriptures. Matthew, the Gospel of Matthew, when he tells the parable of the sheep and the goats, right? And the whole thing about you gave me a drink of water and you fed me and you clothed me, and the people say, when did we do that? We didn't do that. And Jesus says, I tell you, whatever you did for one of the least of these, you did for me. So it's pretty clear there that when you do something for the vulnerable of the world, the those who need our help, you're doing it for Jesus. Doesn't get more clear than that. Um, so how we look at the world, do we look at the world as everything in the world is for me? It's for my fulfillment, for my pleasure, even for my salvation. How do you look at Jesus? Do you see Jesus as the savior for you from your sins? Okay, that's good. Um, but what about how do you feel about everybody else? Is everybody else included? So if it's only about me and Jesus, my relationship with Jesus, that's one way of looking at things, and that makes it easier to think that I really don't think about how something affects me until it affects me. And then there are those who have a much broader concept of the universe, actually, the interconnectedness of everything in the universe, and that we as human beings are all connected with one another, as well as with the divine and in the universe. Much more cosmic view of things, but really not strange. It's exactly what Paul wrote, the Apostle Paul, in his letter to the Corinthians. And we read this all the time in church. If you're a churchgoer, you probably heard this many times. But do we really get it? Do we really act out of it? So this is what he says. The body is one, even though it has many parts. All the parts, many though they are, comprise a single body. And that body is not one part, it is many. And then he goes into this is kind of amusing how he does this. If the foot should say, because I'm not a hand, I don't belong to the body, does that make it any less part of the body? And if your ear should say, because I'm not an eye, I don't belong to the body, would that make it any less a part of the body? If the body were all eye, what would happen to our hearing? If it were all ear, what would happen to our sense of smell? Ridiculous, right? But he says there are indeed many parts, but one body. The eye cannot say to the hand, I don't need you, any more than the head can say to the feet, I don't need you. And here's the punchline. If one member suffers, all the members suffer with it. If one member is honored, all the members share its joy. Again, there it is. If one member, and we're all part, we could put different words in there. You know, if I'm not rich, I'm not part of the body. If I'm not white, am I part of the body? If I'm not healthy, all kinds of things we could substitute in there. And yet, what it comes down to, bottom line, is yes, we are all part of the body. We are all part of the body. Even those people we don't agree with or like or respect, gets challenging, right? But we are all part of this body. And if we can understand, if one of us suffers, then all of us are suffering. And there's the other side of that too. If one of us is rejoicing, we should all be rejoicing. But I think it's the suffering part that's probably harder for us. The child starving in Somalia is part of the body. Um, the immigrant being deported to God knows where is part of the body. The National Guard troops in our cities are part of the body. Um, you you are part of the body. I'm part of the body. And if we truly believe that, and truly believe that we're all connected, it's not just a head thing, it's a real thing. It's hard for us to even get our minds around that, but it's not a mind thing. It's that we live in this universe that is an interconnected web of life in which each and every one of us, and I would add creation in with that too, our animals, our uh, trees, everything. But for now, we're talking about people. We're all connected. And if we can understand that and understand that that is what our Christianity teaches us, because it does, it's right there in the Bible. If that is what it means to be a follower of Jesus, it's very clear the worldview that we need to have. The parable of the Good Samaritan. Who is my neighbor? Turns out everybody is my neighbor, especially, not especially, but including the one that we thought was other, despicable, hated, don't want anything to do with those Samaritans. And then it turns out that the Samaritan is the good one. Jesus turns everything upside down in the ways of the world that we usually think of things. Jesus turns it upends it. And so as as we try to dismantle this white Christian nationalism that we've got going in our country today, turn back to Jesus. It sounds kind of evangelical, doesn't it? But turn back to Jesus and read read Jesus, read Paul. Paul isn't always great to quote, but Corinthians 12, yeah, First Corinthians, or I guess as Trump called it, 1 Corinthians, chapter 12 there, take those words and try to live into them. Um, Celebrate with those who get it, who come to an epiphany through being affected personally by something. We can celebrate that for sure. But we also need to be out there. I love. I was listening to a video or podcast today from um, oh, I can't remember his name, but he's the founder of um, the Christian Left. Let me see if I can get the Christian Left. Um, and it was really good because this is the stuff he was talking about. And well, here's a nice a little merch, the Christian Left. If you're into merch, but what I really liked were these t-shirts. I like the logos. I don't need the t-shirt, but I like the logos. The first one, there is the fist of justice, not violence, but justice, with the cross around it. Yeah, we can reclaim the cross as an instrument of justice. So that gives us a way to reclaim or claim Christian symbolism without taking along some of the baggage that we might get from um, Christian nationalists or other places. And then the rainbow Jesus, how you treat them is how you treat me. That's right out of that parable of the sheep and the goats. How you treat the least of these, you're really treating me. So it's kind of cool, right? There are symbols, there are images, there are ways of thinking that are not this heresy that we've got going in our country right now of Christian nationalism. So um, get out there and rejoice with those who rejoice, suffer with those who suffer, and keep on um, following the Jesus that we know loves each and every one of us. Thanks.